over the SAT. Now, make sure you watch the other video in which I talk about the universities and what big of a difference your SAT score is going to do. But a little, I guess, spoilers. It makes a difference, but not a difference in which it's going to decide what school you're going to go to. What's going to decide that is you actually doing the work in class. So make sure you keep doing your work this senior year. Bring your GPA up because that's going to have a bigger meaning, or it's going to have a bigger impact on you going to college or not. All right, just wanted to say that out there. Just point that out there, and let's start with some math. Because I've been talking a lot, but not about math. So on the SAT, there's going to be a math component, and that's what we're going to go over. A lot of this stuff is going to be Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. A little bit of geometry there, I think, in probability, which I think is also geometry. But for the most part, most of the stuff that's going to be covered is going to be over regular Algebra 1, Algebra 2. So that's what we're going to go over. So if you already went over this problems in class with me, then you can skip to 11, okay? Because I went over 1 through 10 in class. And then the rest I'm going to go over on videos and stuff like that. That way you guys have that extra, practice per se. So let's go over number 1. Now, number 1 is talking about proportions. It's talking about what is 10% of 470. Now, this is not very difficult. All you really have to do is write your proportion formula. Now, if you don't remember your proportion formula, this is it. All right, so the first thing that we're going to put here is going to be is of 100 and percent. Now, everything is going to be representing something. So, for example, over here we have the percent. Obviously, it's going to be in a percent. This is going to be part, and this is going to be whole of something. So, we went over this in class, so it should be pretty straightforward. But let's start filling this out for those people who do not know how to do this problem. So, first, we know that we have a percent, so I'm going to put that where percent is. So, I'm going to put it on top of the 100. Later, I'm going to go ahead and look at what word is right next to 470. Right now, we have the word off, so that means that number is going to go on the bottom. That's the entire thing. And we're looking for the part, which is the is. Now, at this point, we're going to do what we call cross multiply, which we multiply those two and then those two. And then we get our answer. So let's do the first two. So we're going to do x times 100. It's going to be 100x. Now that's going to equal to 470 times 10 is going to be 4,700. What we're going to do right here, we're going to solve for x. So we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by 100. So it's going to be x is equal to, and if you don't know how to divide by 100, you just grab the decimal spot and move it twice to the left. No, to the right, actually. And, wait, no, to the left. My bad. You're going to move the decimal point twice to the left if you're dividing, twice to the right if you're multiplying. So this one's going to be 47. So my answer for number 1 is going to be 47. Okay, so let's go with number 2. Number 2 is asking us which equation has the same solution as the given equation. All right, so one of our answer choices has to equal this. All right, they have to equal each other. So whenever we solve for x, we need to get the same answer. So let's go ahead and solve this one first. So we have 4x plus 6 equals 18. Whenever you're solving for x, I didn't say it last time, is that you want to leave the x alone. So you got to move everything else to the other side. So we're going to have to, over here, we're going to have to move the 6 first. So I'm going to move the 6. That way that we move it should be pretty easy. It's just the opposite. So instead of plus 6, we have a negative 6. Those cancel out, and that turns into 12. Now we bring this down. So now we have 4x. Now, whenever you have a number and a letter together, in order to get rid of it, you have to do the opposite. So right here, those two numbers are getting multiplied. So we divide by 4. So x is equal to 3. All right, pretty easy. Now, one thing that's going to equal 3 I should have mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it right now. I want you guys to look at this right now. 4x plus 3. Look at how my answer choices are written. Out of all of those, which one looks like this one right here? Well, we already know. That one. They're exactly the same. So that means that this is also going to give me 3x once I solve for it. So my answer for number 2 is C. All right, pretty easy. Oh, let's go down. Now, this is whenever you get to this word problems, underline everything that's important. So I will underline the numbers and what kind of words are right next to it. So right here we have 25, and it has the word service fee right next to it. Oh, what am I doing? There we go. That one. Then we have $10 per hour, and then we have spend maximum of 75. Now I'm gonna read it just so you know what's going on here. The total cost in dollars to rent a software consists of a service fee of $25 fee and a $10 per hour rental fee. A person rents a softboard for T hours and intends to spend a maximum of $75 to rent the softboard, which inequality represents a situation. Now, whenever they ask you this type of questions, I want you guys to think about y equals mx plus b. I wrote it wrong. All right, what this means is that we're going to go ahead and write an equation. And the way that we're going to write this one is that everything is going to represent something in this equation. Now, if you remember anything that has per hour, it is going to be what we call your slope. And it's also going to be represented by that letter m. So I can already start rewriting this problem. 10x. Okay. Now, anything they're going to charge you at the beginning, and it's always going to be at the beginning, there's no other option. It's going to be what we call a constant. And it's always represented by the letter B. So in this case, it's what letter? 25. Now we do equals. And we write the total that we want to spend, in which this case is going to be 75. So that's going to be our y value here. So we have everything that we need. Now we just have to look at which of the equations that they give us looks kind of like the ones that we have. So we can say, and we can take off A and C. Those do not look anything like our equations, so we can move on. Now letter B and letter D are going to be looking very similar to the answer that we got. So which of the two is my answer? If you pick letter B, then make sure you double look at it, because look at what they did with the 25. They put it as a rate of change, which is not true. That is a fee that it's only going to get charged one time, so it's not going to be a continued charge. So that one's, we can take it off. So the only option that we can get is actually D. Okay, and that's how that one's going to work. Now let's go ahead, go to the next one. Now, whenever you're doing this type of problems or this type of test, the best thing that you can do is just move on and do your just try and answer the questions as fast as possible. Worst thing that you can do is get stuck on one of the questions and not move forward. If you get stuck, leave it alone. Go to another one, because the worst you can do is just try and solve that one question, and now you don't have enough time to look at all the questions on the test. So if I don't know all the questions right away, I'm just going to move forward. And I'm actually going to do it on here, but so far they've been pretty straightforward. Now the function g is defined by g of x equals 2x plus 9, for which value of x is g of x equals 25. All right, so what we're going to do here is that we're going to be looking at this guy right here. They're saying that g of x is going to be 25, meaning that my resultant is going to be 25. So I'm going to have 25 on this side, but they're asking what number, if I plug in for x, is going to give me 25. All right, let's do that. So I'm going to pick A. So A is going to go into the equation, so it's going to look like this. 4 squared plus 9. And if you don't remember, 4 squared just means the number by itself, and they're going to multiply. and then plus 9. So that turns into 16 plus 9 equals to 25. Is that what we were supposed to get? Yes, so my answer is A. So we can move on. Each face of a fair 14-sided die is labeled with a number 1 through 14, with a different number appearing on each face. If the die is rolled one time, what is the probability of rolling it 2? So that means that we have a die, and this is a die, right? That's a regular die, but this is 6 sides, right? Now we have a die, and I don't know how it's gonna look. I'm just gonna do like a little circle, and it's equal to 14 sides. All right, that's a problem. We have a die. This is a die. It's like, has a whole bunch of different sides, and it has 14 sides. Now, whenever we roll it, we have a possibility of getting a 1 through 14. But remember, how many 2s do we have in this one? Only 1, 2. And how many options? Equals 14. Okay, let me rewrite this. Only 1, 2. And we have 14 options, okay? So that means that our probability is going to be 1, because that's the options. No, that's the outcome. And 14 is your option. So whenever you're doing probability, that is usually how it's going to work. You want to put your outcomes on the top, or your possible outcomes. And on the bottom, you want to put all the options that you have. So in this case, it's going to be 1 outcome, but 14 different options. So my answer is also A for this one. All right, now we have a printer. It produces posters at a constant rate of 72 per minute. Okay. At what rate in posters per hour does a printer produce a posters? So in other words, this is a conversion problem. So how many minutes? Okay, how many minutes in an hour? So 1 hour equals 60 minutes. That's going to be important. Now, how many can we do per minute? 42. Now, whenever you multiply both of them, I believe you're going to get 2,520. And that is your answer. That's how many posters you can do in an hour with this rate. As you can see, most of these problems are just really straightforward. And I believe because this is the section in which you're going to have to do everything by hand. Now, this is like one of the previous problems that we did. Now, it's going to ask you, the function f is defined by the equation f of x equals 7x plus 2. What is the value of f of x when x is equal to 4? So we're going to be plugging 4 into x. So instead of putting x, we're going to put 4. So I put 7, then parentheses, because we're plugging something in, and then plus 2. Now, if you don't remember, every number that's right next to parentheses, or whenever you have a scenario like this, that means that those two have to multiply. So in this case, it's going to be 28 plus 2, 30. All right, pretty awesome. Now that is my answer, and we can move on to the next problem. A teacher is creating an assignment worth 70 points. This is a type of problem I would highly recommend you guys skip, mainly because a lot of you are going to get confused with all the information that's given. But I would skip this one if I were you, and I would go to another one that's a little bit faster to do. But let's go ahead and read it. A teacher is creating an assignment worth 70 points. The assignment will cost questions worth, we have 2 things. We have 1-point questions and 3-point questions. Now, which equation represents the situation where x represents 1-point questions, but y represents 3-point questions. Okay, so look at the difference. X is going to be represented by 1x, right? Because 1 question is going to be worth x points, okay? I said it all wrong. X is only worth 1 question. So if I have 10 x questions, that means that they're only going to be worth 10 points. Okay. Now y is worth 3 points. So let's say we have 4 y questions. How many points do we get? 12 points. All right. Now we're going to be using x and y questions to figure out how many questions in total do we have. So we're going to have x questions and we're going to have to add it to the y questions. And that is going to equal to 70 points. Now, right now, they're not asking you how many of each do you need. They're just asking you to write the equation, and this is going to be my equation. Because I need to add the x questions with the y questions in order to figure out whenever I have 70 points. So my answer is D. Okay, that's the main purpose of this one. Now, let's go over to some geometry now. We have 2 right triangles, which are similar. Now, I might be explaining this wrong, but this is to my best of my ability. I haven't taught geometry in a while, but we're going to have 2 different triangles. One is LMN, and the other one is PQR. Now, whenever you have 2 different triangles, they're exactly the same triangle, but one of them bigger and the other one smaller, right? And what I'm referring to is the sides, okay? They're going to have the same angles. They're going to look exactly the same. The only thing is that the size is going to be different. Now, what it says right here is, and the reason why I'm doing this is because it says similar. If they didn't have the word similar, then I don't know what I would do. But they would probably give you something else in order to do the problem. But they use the word similar. That means that they're similar figures. They have the same angles, same shape, different sizes. So they're saying that this M over here is 53. Now, because they're similar, this angle also has to be 53. Right? And so what is the question asking? What is the angle for Q? And we already know 53. And that is it. Let's go to the next one. All right, so this is what we call system of equations. What we're going to do here is pretty easy. It's going to ask, given these 2 equations, what is going to be the value of x, right? So solve the following, give me a system of equations, and tell me what is going to be x. Pretty easy. We know that y is equal to negative 3x, and we're going to be using that to our advantage. Now, I'm going to be writing the bottom equation, but instead of writing y, I'm going to put what y is standing for. Y stands for negative 3x. So I'm going to go ahead and put negative 3x. And the reason why I'm doing this is that now I only have one variable, and I can solve for that one variable. If I didn't have that information, I wouldn't be able to do this problem. But now we can, because now we have x and x. Now we subtract those 2, so that turns x equals to 15. That is my answer. That is it. All right, now let's go ahead and do 11. Now, let's read it carefully. It says, which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model of the following? I can't even read. Let me read it again. Which of the following equations is the most appropriate linear model for the data shown in the scatter plot? So first things first. Look at your equation. Is it a positive or a negative linear equation? Now, if you remember, if it goes from the bottom right to top, or bottom left to top right, that's positive. If it goes top to bottom, that is a negative. And that is important because we're talking about slope. We're talking about the m. So y equals mx plus b. So we're talking about that. So this guy right here, the m, is going to be negative. So which out of all of them is the negative slope? The top 2. Now, the second thing that you need to understand is your v, your y-intercept. B also stands for y-intercept. That means that your line is going to touch the y-axis, this right here at that point. So I see my scatter plot kind of touching up here, right? That would be kind of like 10 or something. So is it positive 10 or negative 10? It's on the top. So it's positive 10. So I can already mark this one off too. So my answer for this question is B. It wasn't too hard. All they're trying to see if you understand how to write an equation and how to interpret an equation whenever you see it on a graph. So what I did in this problem is I looked for the slope. I noticed that was a negative slope. And then I cancel anything that didn't have that. Secondly, I look at my B. My B should be a positive number and it should be close to 10, which is letter B. And we're done with 11. That's it. Now let's go ahead, go to 12. Saying the graph of y equals f of x is shown, where the function f is defined as the function ax cubed plus bx squared plus c plus d. All right, and a, b, and c and d are constants for how many values of x does f of x equals 0. And you might be like, what the heck is going on? I don't understand any of this. What I want you to remember is that this guy right here also stands for the letter y. So what they're actually asking is, when is your y equal to 0? Okay, so we look at the graph. It's not very hard, and we look at every single point that y equals 0. Right here, and right here. So 3 times. The first one's a -1, second one's a 4, and the last one is that 7. So how many do we have? 3. We didn't even have to actually figure out the coordinates. All we have to do is count them. We're done. That is it for that one. Pretty easy, right? Now, Vivian bought party hats and cupcakes for $71. So let's highlight $71, and she got cupcakes and hats. Now, each package of party hats costs $3. Now, cupcakes are gonna cost you $1 for each cupcake. Okay. Now, if Vivian bought 10 packages, right, of party hats, how many cupcakes did she buy? Okay, so this has just one of the problems that we did before about, what was it? Oh, it was the teacher making the test. This is very similar to that problem. So we can kind of already go ahead and rewrite this one like we did on the other one. We know the party hats are gonna cost how many? I'm gonna call this X. This is party hats, so this is hats. And you know what? Even better, just to make it easier on you guys, we're gonna be using hats as H and C as cupcakes. Cupcakes are gonna cost you $1. Hats are gonna cost you $3. So how many packages of hats did you buy? 10. All right. So now 10 times 3 is equal to what? 30. Okay. Now we need to figure out how many cupcakes did she buy if she is spending $71. Okay. So now we need to figure out how many C cupcakes we need to go ahead and do in order to, we need to buy in order to get to that $70. So we already spent $30, right? But now we have to solve for C right here. This is mathematical speaking. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna be subtracting the 30 to the $71. Now the reason why we're doing that is because we already spent that money, right? So how much money do we have left? We have $41. Now if we have every cupcake that costs $1, so we divide this one by 1. So we have a possibility of buying 41 cupcakes. Okay. So that is that one. So what we had to do, we had to go ahead and do the conversion. We know that every hat, or like the package for hats, is going to be $3. They buy 10, that's $30. Now we have to subtract that to 71. How much money do we have left? 41. Now because we have $41, every cupcake is worth $1, so we bought 41 cupcakes. All right, so that's the reasoning from that problem. All right, so right here, what is one of the solutions given to the equation? Now, I know we haven't covered this, but this is basically trinomials and breaking it to the factors. Okay, the way that we do this, we do the X method. A lot of people know how to do this, the X method. A lot of people don't know, but I don't really use this one. I just use like tables. But let's go ahead and go with this one because I know the majority of people have actually done this before. So we're going to go ahead. We need to find A times C here. This is going to be B. All right. So A, which is 1 times 4, is going to be negative 24. Now B is going to be the middle one. So this, what I'm saying, I should have said this. Those numbers are going to be corresponding to what I have right here. Now B is going to be right here on the 10. Now whenever you're factoring, this is an important thing. We need to find two numbers. So we need to find two numbers that if I multiply, they give me this. Oh. And that is multiplying. So this means multiplying. This means addition. Okay, so let me. Okay, so let's go back. All right, if I multiply the two numbers, they're gonna give me negative 24. And this is multiply. If I add them, they have to give me 10. And this is add. All right, that's how factoring is gonna work. All right, this is how the X method works, and you're gonna be putting both factors. You're gonna put one here, and then we go worry about the rest. So what two factors are going to give me 24 if I multiply? So we need to do a table. What gives me 24 if I multiply? Right? Because that's what we're looking for. So I know 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. And I'm going to stop right there. Now I'm going to make all of this ones negative because we need to get a negative answer, right? I'm missing 6 and 4 too, but I'll put it over here on the side. Now, which of the two, if I add them, is going to give me a positive 10? Well, obviously not this one. That one's way too high. Not this one, not this one, and not this one. So the only one I can pick is going to be that one right here. So it's going to be negative 2 and 12. Now, once you have everything already there, you're just going to have to put it in parentheses. And the way that we do this, we always put X. And then we go ahead and start filling up my two factors. So on the first one, I'm going to put negative 2. And on the second one, I'm going to put plus 12. And those are my two factors. Now, but they're not asking for factors. They're actually asking for solutions. So you would have to go ahead and set up this to equal to, okay, you would have to put this equal to 0 and then solve for 0. So that would be x equals 2 and x equals negative 12. And you can put whichever of those on the answer sheet. So that's a lot. Honestly, because we haven't covered it, I would probably skip that one too. So just took a little bit, but let's go to another one. So bacteria are growing in liquid growth medium. There are 300,000 cells per milliliter. Doing an initial observation, the number of cells per milliliter doubles every 3 hours. How many? Okay, so this is like an exponential one. Okay, so how many cells per millimeter will there be in 15 hours? Okay, so how many times are they going to increase? So they're going to increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And you might be asking, how did you come up with that number? So how many times? So I'm dividing 3 to 15. and that is going to be 5. Because there's going to be 3 times in which they go ahead and do a full cycle and double up. So the way that this is going to work on the first time, because we have this initial, was twice of that. And I'm going to go ahead and change that one just to a 3. Okay. And we're going to be adding zeros at the end. So 3. Oh, let me go ahead and erase this real quick. What is the double of 3? 6. Okay. Now that's the first time around. Now because it's gonna doubled, now 6 doubled is gonna be 12. Now 12 doubled is gonna be what? 24. Now 24 doubled is gonna be what? 48. Now 48 doubled is gonna be what? 96. Now, how many zeros are we missing? We're missing quite a bit, right? We're missing 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is 1, 2, 3. Boom. It should be 9 million, but I think I forgot it's over here. So you can already see our answer is going to be this. All right, so I simplified it. So we go from 6, then we go to 12, then we go to 24, then 48, then 96. Then after that, we just add the zeros that we took out at the very beginning, and then we're done. Now, that is how this is going to work. Okay? Pretty easy. Instead of actually working with really big numbers, go ahead and simplify them a little bit, and then do your multiplications. Because I already knew my answer was going to be this, or D, as soon as I saw 96. All right? So just keep that in mind. That's the best way I can actually explain that one. This just keeps incremental. It's an exponential problem. So it starts increasing exponentially. All right, so let's go to the next one. Now, which expression is equivalent to that? Such a pain. But if you remember, we have been doing this. This is combining like terms, and I actually like this one because it's stuff that we've done already. Now, we have... Okay. I see. Now, over here, nothing can combine because this guy is not the same as this guy, so we cannot combine it, so we leave it like that. Now, what we need to look at the answer choices and see which one's going to turn to the top one on top. Now, I can already know that this is not going to be my answer, this is not going to be my answer, and you might be asking you, how do you know that? None of those have a plus sign anywhere, and we need to have 2 different terms right here and right here. So we need a plus. So my answer can only be the bottom 2. So we are already able to simplify it a little bit without even doing any work. Now on the bottom one, we have to do what we called distribute. Okay, we've been doing this a lot. So I'm going to grab this entire thing and it's going to multiply to 6 and then it's going to multiply to 2. All right, pretty easy. So what is 6 times, what is 6? X squared, y squared times 6 squared. Pretty easy because we're multiplying the exponents. I'm gonna add up, so it's gonna be 8 y2, and then we're gonna add, we're gonna multiply 6 times 2. 12x squared, y squared. Is that the same thing on the top? Yes, we're done. That is my answer. Okay, pretty easy. So a lot of this stuff is just stuff that you just need to remember from Algebra 1 and stuff like that. So far we've done 16 questions. Now I'm going to stop it right there because my